The corridors smelled of ozone and antiseptic. Light panels pulsed along the walls like a heartbeat, illuminating the ranks of cadets lined in tight formation, each one an apex representative of their species. Their gazes, glowing, scaled, compound, or slitted, slid to the figure moving down the center aisle. She walked alone. No escort. No welcome. Only silence and suspicion. Cadet Lyra Vo of Earth, classified Deathworlder, Tier 1, strode forward with her spine locked straight and her face carved from indifference. She ignored the way their whispers slowed when she passed, ignored the twitch in the clawed hand of the Drakari to her left, and the subtle shift in weight from the insectoid Hickson who leaned ever so slightly away from her.
She was used to it.
That mix of awe and fear was the same in every room she'd entered since she left Earth's upper stratosphere. No one trusted a species that evolved by surviving everything. They called Earth a cradle of monsters. Gravity too strong. Fauna too aggressive. Climate chaotic. And yet humanity had not only endured it, they had thrived. In galactic terms, that made them unpredictable. Dangerous. Lyra didn't disagree. A voice crackled overhead. Orientation begins in Combat Bay 4. Proceed with purpose. The gathered cadets moved in synchronized waves, their boots clinking against the steel floor in a rhythm bred from years of drilled obedience. Lyra followed at the edge of the formation, her steps deliberately out of sync. There was no place for her within their patterns. Her admission into the Interworld Cadet program had not been unanimous. She'd seen the debrief. 53% approval, with 7 abstentions. Not even a true majority. She was an experiment. The combat bay was cathedral-sized, high ceilings threaded with catwalks and force field projectors. The far end opened into a chamber of glowing platforms set in repeating grids across the floor, each radiating with a cool, blue energy. Some hovered slightly. Others cracked with visible distortion, distorting the air like heat waves. Initiation protocols engaged, said a voice, this time deep and mechanical. From the observation deck above, a tall figure in silver gray armor gestured toward the cadets. You will demonstrate capacity in zero-G motion, reflex response, and environmental endurance. Deathworlder. Lyra's chin lifted slightly. You are not exempt. Of course not. She stepped forward onto the first platform. A surge of energy lifted her off the ground in an instant. Her body twisted in the air, the sudden inversion triggering old reflexes from her military drills back home. She clenched her abs, corrected her angle, and landed cleanly on the second pad as it surged upward. Around her, other cadets leapt, stumbled, flailed. 2 spun out entirely and were caught by auto-stabilizers. Lyra kept moving, her eyes sharp, calculating each trajectory before she touched the pad. From above, voices murmured. Observers. Evaluators. She could feel them watching more closely than the others. Not just for metrics. For failure. Her third landing sent a jolt of unexpected energy through her legs. Someone had tampered with the calibration. She absorbed it, crouched, and launched higher than necessary to correct the imbalance. The others wouldn't notice. But she did. The test concluded 30 seconds later. Cadets stood panting. One groaned. Lyra remained still, her breath slow, eyes scanning the nearest instructor. He nodded, but it wasn't approval, it was curiosity. The kind a scientist reserves for a potentially explosive reaction. In the following hours, she completed the neural reflex gauntlet, a mental resilience chamber, and endured a shock resistance trial that pushed the boundaries of legality. Through it all, she remained composed. Cold. Measured. But they weren't just testing her. They were studying her limits. She heard it during the break, spoken too loudly near a security panel she wasn't supposed to be near. She absorbs far more than projected, said a gravel-edged voice. We'll adjust. Next cycle, increase plasma output. She's hiding damage, and if she fails, another asked uncertain. Then we document and bury it. But she won't. That's what makes it interesting. Lyra turned away before they saw her. She sat alone at the edge of the mess hall, untouched food tray in front of her. Nutrient paste. Compressed proteins. The kind of meal meant for bodies, not minds. Around her, clusters of cadets spoke in native tongues, in clicks, hisses, and glottal pulses. She listened, not to words, but to rhythms. Emotional spikes. Tension. All of it kept circling back to her. They feared what she represented. A species too stubborn to die. Too violent to predict. A shadow moved across her tray. She looked up. A slender Kareen cadet stood there, his lavender skin gleaming under the lights. He tilted his head. You didn't flinch when the energy pads overloaded. Are your nervous systems different? Lyra studied him a moment, unsure if it was curiosity or provocation.
No.
I flinched inside. I just didn't show it. He blinked, one eye after the other. That's strange. She nodded. You'd be surprised what you can endure when flinching gets you killed. He left without a word. Later that night, in her sleeping cell, she stretched her limbs, sore but intact. The walls were reinforced. The cameras were angled too carefully. She lay on her bunk, staring at the ceiling, where light formed a simulated night sky. They thought they could push her until something snapped. But they didn't understand her. Lyra Vo didn't snap. She waited.
She endured.
And then, if necessary, she broke the world instead. The siren blared at 0400. No preamble, no briefing. Just a red strobe flashing over the dormitory ceiling and the voice of command echoing coldly through the walls. Phase 4 combat evaluation. All cadets to the chamber. Immediate deployment. Lyra was already on her feet. She hadn't slept. Rest was a luxury she couldn't afford anymore, not with the way the instructors watched her, not with the subtle changes in her regimen, hotter chambers, harder impacts, longer isolation cycles. They were escalating something. And now, Phase 4. That wasn't on the original schedule. The cadets assembled silently in the antechamber beside the main combat hall, standing in rows as drones scanned their vitals and armor calibrations. Everyone wore the same reinforced combat suit, marked with their species insignia. Except Lyra. Her suit bore no crest, only the black stripe of provisional. It meant, not one of us. The floor vibrated beneath them. Somewhere below, the simulation matrix was powering up. They'd seen it before in lower phases, holographic terrain, adaptive gravity shifts, localized force fields, but this time felt different. The instructors weren't present. Only drones. No briefing. No terrain preview. The chamber doors opened with a hiss. Inside, it was an open metallic corridor stretching nearly 100 meters, lined on both sides by narrow glowing strips. Each pad pulsed a steady blue, identical to those used in mobility trials, only now amplified and tightly arranged. A gauntlet. Vertical and horizontal movement required. Begin, said a voice from nowhere. The cadets launched forward as one. Lyra kept to the rear initially, watching the patterns. Gravity oscillated every few seconds. Pads surged without rhythm. Several cadets missed landings and tumbled hard, caught by emergency dampeners that retracted their suits and locked them in stasis. Lyra moved with economy, her muscles absorbing the shock without overexertion. She calculated momentum with each jump, but she noticed the pressure building. The pads directly beneath her feet hissed louder, brighter. Every time she leapt, her trajectory seemed subtly altered, nudged off-center. It wasn't a test anymore. It was a setup. The shot came at the 60-meter mark. Not a stun blast. Real plasma. It hit her side and spun her midair. Pain lanced through her ribs, raw and deep. She caught the edge of a platform with one hand, barely holding on, legs swinging wildly. Another shot followed, then a third, this one catching her thigh. Her body screamed in protest, but she didn't let go. She hung there, blood slicking her fingers inside the glove, adrenaline flooding her senses. Somewhere behind her, the simulation continued. No one stopped it. No override was issued. No medics entered the field. Whoever authorized this didn't want her rescued. She clenched her jaw and swung her leg upward, biting down a scream as the wounded thigh shrieked in protest. She landed on the pad above and rolled forward, crouching low. Her suit crackled. Systems failing. Pain spiked. Her vision swam. But she was alive. From above, she caught movement in the rafters. 3 drones hovered silently, weapons retracting into their frames. They were tagged for training purposes only, low energy. These weren't. Someone had bypassed standard protocol. Her breath came ragged now, each inhale stabbing her chest. She pressed a hand to her side and felt scorched armor and soft wetness underneath. Plasma burns. Internal bleeding likely. Her vitals must have flatlined on their monitors by now. Maybe they'd already marked her dead.
Let them.
She rose. The simulation continued around her, unaware. Cadets bounded across platforms, struggling to maintain rhythm as gravity vectors flipped. But something had shifted. The air felt heavier. The lights dimmed slightly, recalibrating for the next phase. She ignored the exit beacon. Instead, she turned toward the command deck. There was no direct path, only the side gantries, elevated catwalks that looped above the training field. But she knew the layout, memorized every emergency access corridor during her second week. That had been her insurance. Blood trailing behind her, she scaled the far support column, teeth gritted, muscles screaming. Each movement sent hot needles through her torso, but her mind was elsewhere now. Past pain, past survival. Something primitive had surfaced. Not rage. Not yet. Just a focused, sharpened awareness. She found the access panel and tore it loose. Climbed through. Behind the blast glass of the command center, 3 officers stood around the observation table, their gazes fixed on the display. One of them, the Dralaxian technician, tapped his talon against her data feed. Confirmed biofailure. Subject expired at timestamp. Wait. The blast door behind them buckled.
Once. Twice.
On the 3rd impact, it screamed open, metal folding like wet paper. Lyra stepped through, one leg dragging slightly, smoke rising from her wounded side. Her eyes locked on the technician. No emotion. No speech. Just proof that she was still standing. They froze. She should be unconscious, whispered one of the others. The youngest. He stepped back instinctively. She's from Earth, said the technician, swallowing. Nothing should be assumed. Lyra's voice came low, rasping. You shot me. The lead officer, a grizzled Dolan commander, met her gaze. You were not meant to be eliminated. Just pushed. Lyra took a step forward. He flinched. That was all she needed to see. She didn't strike him. Didn't scream. Didn't accuse. She reached for the observation table, placed her palm on the reinforced control panel, and crushed it. Circuits sparked under her fingers. The monitors died. The lights flickered. The chamber below went dark. Then she turned and walked out, leaving a smear of blood and silence in her wake. The alarm klaxons didn't sound until she reached the lower stairwell. Too late. By then, the internal locks had already overridden, and the emergency protocols were short-circuited, fried by her fist smashing the panel into useless metal. Lights pulsed erratically along the corridor, blue-red-orange, casting jittering shadows across her path as she limped through the silent chaos she'd birthed. Every movement drew fire through her leg and side, but she no longer registered it as pain. It was a signal, a rhythm, a reminder that she was still alive when they had marked her dead. Security drones wheeled into her path, dropping from ceiling hatches like metallic wasps. She didn't pause. Her left hand flicked open the side of a storage locker, her right arm swinging with practiced precision. A fire-suppressant canister caught the lead drone mid-rotation. It crumpled against the wall with a burst of sparks. The second fired a containment gel. It caught her shoulder, hissing on contact, but she powered through, drove her elbow into its sensor core, and felt the satisfying crunch of lenses shattering beneath her weight. Behind her, voices scrambled over the facility intercom. Contain the subject. Lethal force now authorized. She gritted her teeth. Subject. Not cadet. Not soldier. Not even human. Just an error they were trying to erase. The next hallway opened wide, too wide. A trap. She recognized it instantly. High ceilings, retractable floor panels, turret ports in the corners. Standard kill box architecture. She sprinted, knowing hesitation would trigger automated response. As expected, the floor shivered beneath her, folding open to reveal magnetic snare tiles. She pushed off the ground, caught a pipe running overhead, and launched herself forward. The tiles caught air. Not her. She landed hard, rolled once, and burst through the auxiliary maintenance door on the far side, ripping its mechanical lock with a wrench she'd lifted 2 halls ago. The door groaned in protest as it peeled backward under her force, metal hinges screaming. No key code. No override. Just her will against engineered resistance. It gave way. Behind her, heavy boots pounded the corridor. Not drones. Organic. The real response team. 6 armored figures in adaptive suits, faces hidden behind mirrored masks, rifles already raised. The first shot grazed her shoulder, tearing fabric and skin. The second ricocheted off a wall. The third. She didn't let the third happen. Lyra spun, dropped low, and slid across the floor beneath their line of fire. Her palm found a broken pipe valve. It hissed under her touch. She twisted hard, snapping it free, and as she rose, she slammed it into the lead soldier's chest. The armor caved.
He dropped.
She didn't finish the others. No need. They hesitated, just for a breath, and in that breath, she vanished again down the service tunnel. The air down here smelled of engine oil and coolant. Humid, choked with heat.
Perfect.
Above, the facility shook. Lockdown routines initiated. Sections sealed. Blast doors deployed. They thought she was contained. They didn't know where she was going. The central atrium rose through the heart of the complex like a lung of light and steel. It housed the reactor core, the command bridge, the exterior gates, and most importantly, the only manually operable exit. That was where she'd go. That was where she'd make them watch. Her ascent took 10 minutes, climbing cables, ducking patrols, bypassing sealed routes. Every level buzzed with tension. The cadets were being confined to dorm sectors. No explanations given. Just silent tension. Some of them knew.
Some guessed.
All wondered. When she burst through the final maintenance hatch and emerged into the atrium, every head turned. Officers. Commanders. Technicians.
Cadets.
All froze. She stood bloodied, smoke trailing from her torn suit, eyes lit with something rawer than fury, clarity. At the far end of the chamber, the final gate loomed. 12 feet high. Solid ceramite. Reinforced during wartime drills. Meant to withstand a kinetic tank blast. It was closed. Lyra walked toward it. No one moved. Not yet. A voice finally called out. Commander Trell, the one who'd argued against her admission. His voice cracked with disbelief. You're injured. You won't survive out there. She kept walking. You've proven enough. We can call this. You can stand down, Cadet Vo. Her pace didn't change. Her eyes never left the door. Lyra. It wasn't an order. It was the first time someone used her name.
She stopped. Turned.
The silence in the room collapsed into the weight of her gaze. I gave you every chance, Trell said, quieter now. You could have shown restraint. You could have earned their respect. I did, she said, voice frayed and iron-edged. You just didn't see it. She reached the gate, pressed one palm against it, then the other. Her breath steadied. Her muscles tensed. Her stance widened. Someone laughed, quietly, from the upper deck. She's not, there's no way. Steel groaned. Fingers dug into the seam. Her legs trembled. Blood soaked down her arm. With a roar, not of rage, but will, she pulled. The gate screamed. The wall around it warped. Bolts strained. Lights flickered. The room stood motionless, captive to the sound of a door built never to open being ripped from its frame. When the final hinge snapped and the slab hit the floor with a seismic crash, the echo traveled through the bones of everyone present. She stepped over it. Outside, the wind howled over alien soil. Stars flickered behind distant clouds. No walls. No bars. Just open world. She looked back once. Dozens of cadets lined the interior balcony, eyes wide. Not all in fear. Some in awe. One, a young Hickson recruit, raised a fist quietly. She didn't return the gesture. She didn't have to. Then she walked into the dark, every step a declaration the galaxy would never forget.